But actually, they want it too. When you go back and you do the audios, and perhaps you may run across David Tennant at some time in the future, could you kind of tell him to come here? Or if you run across Alan or Peter or Tom or Paul, can you tell them to come here? And just tell them
I'll tell them what it's like.
Yeah.
And then I'll be the only one that keeps coming back.
Could you walk us through your 2 regeneration scenes? The regeneration from yourself as the 6th Doctor to yourself as the 7th? And then, again...
No, I'm just walking through it!
Kind of the technical stuff of what you do. I mean, obviously you show up, you're Doctor Who, you get excited, and one of the first things you do is you land on the ground and you turn into somebody else. Can you walk us through, like, how do they film, or at least with you, how do they film your regeneration scenes?
Well, the first one, the Doctor Who number 6, didn't turn up, as we all know, for very good reasons, actually. So they decided that I would play Doctor Who number 6 as well as Doctor Who number 7. So there's trivia quiz question for you. Which actor played 2 doctors? What? Anyway, I arrived. And as you know, Colin is not the smallest of people. And I nearly am. He is a big fella, and they gave me his costume. And I put it on, they lost me for 3 days. And then they gave me the wig, a wig, blonde, curly wig. When I put it on, I looked like Harpo Marx. So that's why you don't see much of my face when I turn around. A big hairy hand comes in and pulls me around, and I turn into me. So that was it really. I just lay down on the ground in a big costume and tucked it all in, tried to make it fit me. The BBC didn't even build me a costume for it, but anyway, that's how I did that one. The one turning into that rather ugly little man called Paul McGann. Not. I hated his answer. Anyway, Paul, who was a great mate of mine before he did Doctor Who, so that was good fun doing it with him. That was a strange one because they put me on a very cold metal thing, and it was a bit scary really. I'd never worked with a robot camera before. I mean, it's quite common now, but then so they put me in this room all by myself, just me and a robot camera, and it was cold, and I was just had a loincloth on, I was lying there like this, and this camera's going. So they did that, and then of course they put Paul on the same thing, and of course we're about the same height. I don't know if any of you have seen photographs of Paul and I together where I'm handing him the TARDIS key. Well, he's in the photograph, he looks taller than me. That's because they put him on a box. I remember that. He's on a box, he's not that tall. Anyway, so they fitted him onto it, and then the camera did the same thing. So I mean, we had to be robotic, so we do exactly the same. And then, of course, I thought it was rather good actually when I saw it. The way our skeletons went and all that stuff. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. That was a better regeneration, I thought.
Now, you and Sophie had one of the best on-screen doctor-companion chemistries in the history of the show. Can you kind of walk us through, because I've heard from Sophie, some interesting stories about the first time you guys worked together and the working relationship that you guys had. And I'm just wondering if you could kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, yes, I mean, the very first, when I met Sophie, we got on like house on fire from the very beginning. The great thing about Sophie is that she laughed at all my jokes. And she still does. It's amazing, really. I don't know if she keeps it up. But, Bonnie was supposed to leave in the next season. not that season, that she did leave in. And during that particular season, they were trying out young actresses with me to see who would fit. And then they decide in the next season who would be the companion. That was the plan. But the plan went wrong, because Bonnie then suddenly asked to leave earlier. And they said, okay. And it's just, again, by coincidence, if Bonnie had left perhaps at the next season, it might not have been Sophie. If she had decided to go in the previous story, it would have not been Sophie, but she went on during that one. And so they just came up to me and said, what do you think? Should we have, the new companion? Do you want it to be Sophie? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And so luckily, I got Ace. Oh, you got Ace and I got Sophie. That was good.
The other great thing is that dynamic has continued into the audios now, and you've gotten to both flesh out the characters. You have a whole new batch of audio series that you kind of helped develop on the Lost season after the horrible injustice you suffered at the hands of the BBC with leaving and having the show get canceled. You've kind of gotten to sort of finish out and flesh out what your vision of the Doctor was. Can you talk about the new season of the audios that you're doing?
Well, I'd heard that they were doing Colin Baker's stories that never got made, that had been written, that if he had done his next season. And so I thought, well, that's a good idea. And then so I approached him and said, well, what about doing my Lost stories, the ones that we would have done in the 4th season if we'd carried on doing it? They hadn't been written, but they'd been planned and thought about, and notes had been made in the back of envelopes and beer mats and things like that. So they got them all together, these beer mats and envelopes, and put together 4 stories from that season. I've got a new companion because it would have been that season, that 4th season, I would have meant Sophie leaving. The companions always kind of leave like that, like a new ones in. So the plan was that Sophie would leave and I get a new companion. So in these audio ones, I've got a new companion being tried out. But because we're not doing it it's all out of order, and because of all the other audios with Sophie in them and etc., Sophie doesn't leave. But, well, at least I don't think so. She does. Maybe we'll have to wait and find out. But anyway, I've now got 2 very lovely companions. The new companion is a boxer. I think she's a kickboxer. She's, really pretty, small, kind of young and fit, but she can floor you with just one punch. And I think, what a shame it's on radio or audio, because if she was on telly, it'd be great to use that physical stuff. She could, take on the dialect without having a baseball bat, things like that. But, so she's great. So that's what we've been doing, really. I'm going back. They want me to do more. I've got to try and fit in some more between. I've got to go back, do the Mikado, then I've got to go to, it looks like going to Oklahoma, and then from Oklahoma I've got to go to Australia, and then back to New Zealand, and then in New Zealand, I finish work there, and then I go into the hover, and then that's my life for the next bit. Oh my goodness, I think I need a rest.
I think it's great you're working, and I hope that you free some time up in the next 2 years for this anniversary that's coming up. I know you've mentioned that you would come back for the 50th anniversary, and they have not asked you yet.